Cancer, the moon is in Pisces and she's wanting you to take a step back, to look outside of yourself and see what aspects are you ready to that you've outgrown and that you're ready to transcend and let go. Very mysterious stuff here, Cancer. Stay tuned to find out how to work with these energies. But before we jump into that, for those of you who are returning, welcome back, Soul Tribe. I appreciate your subscriptions, your likes and shares. Your support really is just in it was something between amazing and imaginative. Amazing. And it keeps us growing. Moving on. And for those of you who are new, welcome to the Chariot Friends. Justin here, and know that whenever you come across this video, you are in sync with the moon, and she loves that. Also, this is the purpose of the channel for those of you who have Cancer in your placement. Sun, Moon, Rising, Venus, maybe Jupiter, wherever, Cancer, this one's for you. And I do tarot card spreads based upon rule to hit the good old moon. And I'll talk about what sign she's in, what phase she's in, when she's going to avoid, of course, just all those lunar shenanigans. That actually felt really dreamy there. And just so you're all aware, this is a general reading, not a one-to-one. So take what resonates with you, leave the rest with me. Never force a reading on a situation, and everything will be dope, Cancer. Now, let's jump into it. Alrighty, Cancer. As you can see, we are coming up on one of the last major aspects that the moon is going to be forming with the sun before she enters into the next lunar cycle, or to the next new moon cycle. And we're going to get ready to get on the last quarter phase. But before we get into that, I do want to talk a little bit about the moon in Pisces. The moon is going to be entering into Pisces, depending on when you're watching this, on Wednesday, Mercury Day, at 5:32 p.m. and that'll be Pacific time. Now, it's interesting when the moon is entering this energy on a Mercury Day, because Mercury days are really great for getting into the mind, doing some studying, maybe reading some books, having some communication, teaching a class, whatever that's looking like. But I feel that this will be a nice energy for you to, this can be a nice combination with the moon in Pisces on this Mercury day to combine the head and heart, to infuse your day, infuse like this day with like imagination and really allow yourself to just kind of maybe do some creative writing, or maybe this could be doing some photography, possibly even. This could be a great way to kind of work with this combination of Mercury day and the moon in Pisces. Maybe you happen to catch since it's happening towards the evening, maybe you happen to catch like the sunset, get a lovely little picture, something like that. Maybe you're catching fireflies, and I'm just picturing fireflies floating about and you taking pictures. It's fantastic. But yes, the moon is going to be entering into Pisces, and the moon does very well in Pisces. This is a very intuitive place. This is a time to be very receptive to your emotions and the emotions that you are taking on from others. I was actually reading something the other day that I feel could be very useful for those of you who have Cancer placements, especially in like your sun, moon, rising, or any kind of personal planet, Venus, Mars, Mercury. But Cancer energy, just like Pisces, Scorpio, the water signs, they do have a tendency to absorb energies around them, sometimes unconsciously. And this person, Molly McCord, I'm reading one of her books right now, and it had mentioned this exercise of kind of picturing either like a beam of light or maybe even like a waterfall just kind of washing over your body, and just lovingly, just like cleansing and lovingly release. And I feel like that's an important part. Lovingly release any energies that may belong to others and send that back to, and I've added an extra step on it. I'll send the energies back, but I'm sending it back with kindness and understanding and compassion. And that's Pisces, because I feel that when people, like say for example, someone happens to be in a kind of a crappy mood, and I don't feel they necessarily want to throw that on you. It may just not be aware, there may not be an awareness of why this is happening, or maybe there is an awareness and they can't do anything at that moment. Maybe they're feeling the stuck energy, and sometimes just going from that perspective is not to necessarily excuse the person, but it's just so that you don't take that with you. It's so that you don't dip into that vibration either, because if there's nothing constructive that's going to come from it, what's the point? I just actually had an example where It was silly. I was in my own world, and this person had asked me, like, they were like, "Hey, do you not see all these people standing here? Like, I stand behind this thing or whatever." And I was just like, for a second, I was just like, "Oh." Oh, how'd you know I was the? Because I was kind of having a day too, and I was just like, how'd you know I was the one? But I caught myself. I caught myself, and I was just like, it's not worth it, because it wasn't. And then I had practiced that, and you know what? I thought you don't want to be there just as much as I didn't want to be there, and you were expressing that, and I get that, and it helps kind of see that thing. Again, you're not excusing letting people just treat you, however, but it just keeps you so that you don't energetically hold on to that stuff, and I feel that's something to be very aware of when you're in Pisces. Receptivity is very enhanced when the moon is in Pisces. But this is, again, a great time to tap into creativity, to dip into. This is a time for rest to Cancer when we're getting into Pisces energy. This is a time to kind of check out, go into your dream world, go into your imagination, do some coloring, watch a movie, be aware of what you're bringing in, of course. Again, like we want to be, I would say nothing against like, action movies. Because I'm a big fan of action, or at least I was. Like, actions don't quite hit like they used to. It's been like I just noticed that like it can be a lot sometimes. So I just had something I personally have to be mindful of. But watch something fantastic. Maybe watch something about going into space, or or just allow yourself maybe just stare up at the clouds, just kind of daydream, or watch the sunset or something. Like get into that imaginative space with Pisces. So that's one way to work with this moon energy. Now let's get into this chart reading here. Because as you can see on the let me get my handy. You can't see anything yet because I'm not drawing anything. On the 30th, you can see that at least. On the 30th of May, we're going to be entering into the last quarter phase. And that's going to be happening at 10:12 a.m. And again, that'll be Pacific time. And that's going to be happening on Jupiter Day. And look at Big Papa's here. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But the last quarter is when the moon and the sun are, as you can see here, I'll draw a little line there. The sun, lovely shiny sun, and our guardian, the moon here, they're forming a square with one another. Now, the difference between the first quarter and the last quarter is the first quarter is when when the intention that you set off during the new moon cycle is starting to take up traction. You've been doing that workout plan, you're taking that class, you're planning that trip, you're working on that self-esteem. And it's where we start, the real work starts to come into making that conscious effort, getting over seeing what challenges are coming up, what are things that we have to tweak, there's some things we have to let go. That's the action that the first quarter is doing. But the last quarter is doing a different type of action. It's the action of letting go, of making space. In order to start up the thing that you started during the new moon cycle, something may have there's some space that needed to be made. So I'm thinking, for example, if we were starting up maybe a workout routine, for example, you got to make time for that. And so maybe we have to, in order to do that, maybe we're doing a little less, maybe time on watching TV or social media, or maybe we've had to switch around some things. And I find with the last quarter, it can be where those old habits, maybe you happen to skip a workout day, you've been on a roll, and like, oh, maybe I'll just happen to skip one day. It's okay to have like a day where you just happen to skip every now and again, but when it becomes a theme, what's getting in the way of, I feel like it's that old thing that was getting in the way of that when you started it off, kind of creeping its way back. Like it's almost like a devil moment coming through, but it's more so like a test. Just like hey, you've been working so hard on this. Now that this has become a little bit more norm, this is a little more integrated. How are you feeling now with this thing? Is there some areas that we still need to work on? Is this thing that's something that we're still attached to? And what I like about this energy between the moon and Pisces, or excuse me, between the moon and the sun here, even though it's a square, the squares, again, they spur up action. And the moon is asking you to let go with Pisces. This is an awareness that something can't come along with you. Something you may have thought was an integral part of you, the sun in Gemini. But now this, I feel the sun in Gemini is asking you to be curious about, like, is this something, whatever this thing that may be coming up that we're having trouble letting go, does this really serve me anymore? And again, that coming with that moon in Pisces, I feel is coming with this honesty, because now it's looking at it from a higher perspective. That's why I say, like, kind of stepping outside of your body when I was talking about that earlier, and like kind of analyzing, looking at this avatar, this human body, like, you know, that thing, whatever that is. Maybe this is like you're wanting to change up your diet to working a little less sugar, but you know, there's that cake's looking at you. It happens. Sometimes it doesn't talk that loud. Sometimes you got the control, and then other times it can tell you they got the value, it's yelling at you. And it's, again, this moon is looking at this thing with compassion. Even if you find yourself having troubles letting go during this new moon, during this last quarter phase, and maybe that's something that you may need to carry into the next lunar cycle, that's fine, you know, but I do feel that it is remembering, at least you got eyes on it, and knowing that it isn't a part of you and that you can grow from that. And two, one thing I feel like to really kind of pay attention to, I'm going to bring your attention next thing here, Venus is in the mix of this square, because she's forming a conjunction, this conjunction is building. She's forming a conjunction with the sun in Gemini here. And I feel with Venus being in this kind of tough conversation, Venus is how we take care of ourselves when we need to do some self-care, where there's needing to be some action, but also can be in our deal with our relationships as well. And so when you're looking at this thing as far as like what you may be having trouble letting go, a question to maybe ask yourself, Gemini energy, how is this affecting my relationships? Is this affecting it in a positive or negative way? Is focusing on this thing keeping me, you know, giving me less time? And I'm talking about the thing that we're struggling to let go of. Is this thing cutting in time with like my friends or with my family, my partner, whatever that's looking like? How is that reflecting compared to how this thing that I've been trying to better myself, you see, you know, has this been producing better results in my relationships? I want more of that. So I feel that there's this, it's just almost like that old habit that just maybe is just having just a hard time to kick on. I think about this when, for example, maybe when people quit smoking cigarettes, for example. That was a tough one for me. I mean, it was a whole process. I went from smoking into like doing the vapes, and then I was like, well, I'll just roll my own, and then I just ended up just quitting. And I had quit cold turkey once, and then I worked for a spell, and then I got back on, and then I quit cold turkey again. I've been great ever since. But it's a process, you know, and that's what I feel this last quarter is saying. It's one thing too I want to bring to your attention. That's not the only conjunction. If you can see here, Uranus and Mercury are also, Mercury's coming up on Uranus too. And this is happening in Taurus, and Taurus deals with your values. And when we're talking about Mercury, Uranus is the higher octave of Mercury. And so I feel like Uranus here, it's like your higher self is giving your mind, Mercury, some downloads here. It's just like, hey, this thing isn't working anymore. This isn't bringing you peace. Is this really bringing you security? Taurus energy. You know what? Maybe this even, look at the money that you may need to invest in order to support this habit. That was a big indicator too when I quit smoking. I got this app. It was like it's called the Smoke Free app, and it'll keep you put in roughly how many cigarettes you would smoke, and it'll keep tally of not how many you haven't smoked, but how much money you've saved. And I mean, it's a lot of money. And so, you know, so these are just some things I feel to think about. You know, action isn't always, and I think that's all I have to say about that. Let me give one more glance there. Yeah, I think that's all I have to say on that one. So let's switch back over to the main screen here. But with that energy, this is just a big time to just think about the things that we're holding on to. What do they really serve a purpose anymore? And this is a time, the last quarter, again, a time for cleaning up emotional clutter, physical clutter, reflection, letting go, and a great energy to do while we're in Pisces as well. Now, before we get into the tarot, I want to talk about one more thing, which is the void of course time. And that's going to be happening on Venus Day, Friday, the 31st of May. And it's going to be happening from 7:54 p.m. to 8:28 p.m. So a pretty short void course there. Now that happens when the moon forms her final aspect with a celestial body, and then she's just roaming the void. They call it canadromia in the old days. And I like that. I like that it's supposed like void of the course. It makes it sound like she's just kind of wandering and we don't know where she goes. I like to think of it, that's the time where this last chapter in the sign that she was in is becoming a memory, when it's really the lessons are starting to solidify. What did I get from this? What did I feel I grew from this? How was this experience for me? And the thing too with the void, of course, this is a time where there's no energy. This is a time to start wrapping up things. And granted, it's a short void, of course, but this is a time usually, when we have lengthier ones, it's a time where starting up things isn't typically advised. It's not that you can't, it's just that usually nothing happens. And again, it's going to depend on what we're talking about. It's not going to say like if you book like a wedding or something like that's not going to happen. There are certain laws with that, or certain fixed things with that. Your train's still going when the moon's void, of course. So, those types, it's something to be mindful of there. But usually with the void, of course, it takes on the flavor of the final aspect that she formed. And this one happened to be with Neptune. And I love when the moon and Neptune get together. You got two very soft energies that are coming together, and they speak a very similar language. Neptune, I would imagine, does very well in Cancer, Pisces, because Jupiter is exalted in Cancer. The traditional guardian of Pisces. And so I imagine Neptune, being that she's about the feelings and love and this nurturing, would be very well in Cancer, and the moon is doing very well in her sign too. And so there's this very intuitive, very dreamy. This is a time where make sure I always advise when we're dealing like with Neptune stuff to get rest and things, to allow yourself to, get good sleep as well. And again, allow yourself to kind of daydream, allow yourself to get out of the mind and get just more into the heart, get more into the emotions, start feeling things, listen to some music, get into this really just wonderful space, maybe even get out in nature a little bit, enjoy that type of stuff, being receptive to what you're feeling, because Cancer, where our Cancerian energy is so intuitive. And yeah, this can be one where you really can just find this oneness and maybe even learn this. Because Neptune brings about this wisdom when we're transcending the ego. That is not to say that whole period was for nothing. This experience was for your higher self, for this growth, for this soul growth. This real beautiful that I feel whenever we get around this energy. And Neptune won't be in Pisces too much longer. This is the time to really kind of enjoy these downloads that the moon is getting while she's in this space. So just something I feel to be mindful of there, Cancer. And if this is something that you're curious about how these energies may be working in your chart, you want to see work with the moon a bit more intimately, book a reading with me. I have links down in the description box below with the services that I offer. And it can be very, very wonderful thing when you're getting in the flow of your energies, Cancer. For example, I find for Cancerian energy in particular, if you got it in your sun, moon, rising especially, but sun, moon as well. Because looking at your lunar return can be very beneficial. And that's usually when the moon is conjunct your natal moon. So like when the moon's in Gemini, each time the moon's at 0 degrees, 14 minutes of Gemini, I'm at my lunar return. And the thing with the lunar returns is that they're always in the same sign. It's similar to the solar return. The sun will be in the same sign, but it's the house that change and the planets that are moving around as well. And it gives you just a landscape for the month with the lunar returns, a landscape or a picture of the emotional landscape that's coming in for you this month. My moon is going through the 8th house right now, and there have been a lot of big changes that have been happening, a lot of intense emotions that have been coming through. This is Scorpio's house. So it has been a lot of intense emotions, but it was one of those things I wasn't quite sure. I had an idea of what may go down, but it was a lot of intense emotions that came up, but in that, a lot of cool stuff came from that. There's some things that I'm getting ready to undertake that I'm really just kind of going for it. And it got me even thinking too. When we're thinking about eighth house, that was the house of shared possessions. So that was something where I had to be mindful of. There are things that I wanted to do, but we being my partner and I, we have the resources, but I want to be mindful. I try to be mindful of how I've contributed to the resources and how he's contributed. So that's something that I've been making sure to be very mindful of as well. But this is just one example of how you can work with this flow, and then these energies. Because can you imagine if I had gotten caught off guard by this, it would have been, I don't know if the results would have been the same. So it's just something when you're in that flow and you're in that awareness, it does change up how you show up. It's not meant to necessarily tell you what to do, but it just asks, the chart invites you an invitation. Like, what are some eighth house themes? This is where the moon, your feelings are focusing on. What are some eighth house themes that you're thinking about? Right around the same time, that was the time where I was getting married. It was or getting remarried, but it was a whole thing. These are stuff that I had to think about, but now I could think about them more consciously, and make some bigger moves and make some more mindful moves thinking just in my relationship that I didn't make from the previous go round. So that's some things to think about. So it can be really cool when you're working with this stuff more personally. You get a snapshot of your month to month basis. Cancer, we're getting ready to come up on our solar return here soon. Gemini season. So we're moving. It's still got a little bit of time, but our birthday season, it'll be Cancer season before you know it. So if you're wanting to know what the forecast is looking like for the year, I've actually just started to take a peek at mine, and I'm going to be in a lot of Cancerian energy, a lot of water energy this year, and I'm actually really excited about that. So it actually tied up really nice, actually, even too, with my vision board. I'll be in a Cancer rising energy for the year, and I've been one of my things for my vision board is I'm so in sync with the moon cycle. So now that's really even going to pay off more. So just an example of how Saturn's doing some cool stuff. Pluto was doing some cool stuff in my previous one, but now it's like they've traded off. It's I can get into that whole thing, Cancer. And actually I'm actually going to be doing some lives here soon. I want to do some chart examples as well, so stay tuned for that. Maybe I'll do my upcoming solar return chart, maybe probably on the other channel, either on this channel or the other channel. I'll stay tuned for that one there, Cancer. But yes, if that's something that resonates with. Oh, you know what? Goodness, I could be shuffling because I have a whole other thing, Cancer. But last little thing, Cancer. I don't think I've done this for a while, but just so you all know, this isn't a gender specific reading. So apply these energies to people as they make sense for your situations. Yeah, I don't think I've said that in a while, and I think that's all I got for you, Cancer. Perfect, perfect, because I'm running out of stuff to say. Oh, Cancer. There you have yourself. Now you got plenty to say. So, Cancer, you are really syncing up with these energies, Cancer. I love it. So you have the first quarter moon in Gemini, which I love it. Granted, the moon's in Pisces, but still. The sun's in Gemini, it's fine. But this is a card of speak your world into being. And I dig this, Cancer, especially with the moon being in Pisces. This is a great energy for you to dip into that imaginative space that I was talking about, especially when the moon first enters into Pisces. As you're wrapping up that Mercury day, I would say if you can do some sort of maybe write a little poetry, whatever I find your medium of expression may be. Maybe you just do a little doodling before you go to bed, or maybe you do a little writing. Maybe you're reading a fantasy novel, or maybe something I feel to get you into an imaginative space, get you into an inspired place. Because Pisces is one that, in order for something to come to life, it needs to come from the imagination. It's coming from these, when people say oh, I got this intuitive hit, or I got this download. They're all synonymous with ideas. I got an idea. I had something come to my head. It seemingly came out of nowhere, but it's because you allowed your mind to roam somewhere, to a place that you hadn't gone before. And I feel like when we're in a time where your thoughts become things, Cancer. And I feel like that's really becoming more and more evident as these energies are really kind of building up in the power that you do have, the power in the tongue, and into when I'm thinking about Pisces and their vivid imagination, and the fact that the sun and the moon are in this conversation in Pisces and Gemini, both signs of very visible duality. Just be aware of the conversations that you're having. And if the world that you're in is not if it's not a reflection of what you're wanting, I feel that's a time when we need to check in with ourselves. When the outside doesn't feel like something's lining up. What have we been speaking in? What have we been attracting? What vibration have you been in? Where have the thoughts gone? Where is this? Just really kind of pay attention to that, because on the flip side of this, when we are more conscious of this stuff, when we're not just attracting energies, we're not, when we're more aware of the energies that we're pulling into, again, maybe we can do those cleansing exercises where we're removing stuff so you can find your sense of self again, speak your world into being, as opposed to, I'm thinking about Gemini. Gemini is your everyday, the stuff that you hear on your commute to work, whether that be on the radio, whether that be on transit, whether that be, a bus, a train, whether this be at the office, whether this be at the store. And, what has been, just what has been coming into being, what's been coming into your world here, Cancer. And what shifts are maybe needing to be, again, that maybe need to be made in order to change things. But let's get some tarot on this. I'm not sure if this is the symbol for the throat chakra, because some of these have some symbols for the different things, but I get throat chakra when we're talking about that. Something feels, But let's get some tarot on this, Cancer. All right, thank you, yourself. Oh, what's good, girl? All right, Cancer. Interesting. We were talking about you. So you have the Empress, the Venus, the Five of Wands, and the Four of Cups upright. And then you have the King of Pentacles and the Knight of Wands in reverse here, Cancer. Let's start with the Empress. Because Cancer, when you feel abundant, when you speak abundance, it comes into, that's what we see. That's what is. And that's when we're thinking about Venus, you want to be, Venus is how we receive energies. And with Venus being in Gemini right now, depending on when you're watching this, I feel, what is your relationship with your world, into speaking your world into being? How do you deal? I'm just thinking about, for some, for example, maybe you've had this idea or something, you've had this wish that you've been wanting to manifest here with the Four of Cups, but it feels like something is getting in the way here with the Five of Wands. We're needing to maybe do some things. No, that isn't quite. It feels like that. It's like you've been trying to get into this state of Empress. We've been brainstorming on some things, but something doesn't feel like it's grounded yet. Something doesn't feel like it's quite sticking with the King of Pentacles. And I feel with the Knight of Wands being here, maybe the reason, part of it that is maybe something may not be manifesting for you. You've put out this wish here, you've been waiting with the Four, because I think I'm going to get a little bit more on this. But it feels like maybe it's because it's not a world that it's maybe someone else's world that you've been wanting to speak into. Maybe you're following someone who you think embodies Empress and you wanted to do it like them, but you can't do it like them because you're different. And that's why I feel the Five of Wands it's like finding your own creativity here, your own pathway of speaking your word, finding your voice in this. That's very fascinating. Let me get clarifier on this Four of Cups here. Because it even feels like maybe we're doing something a way that we're trying to reach. It's like the Knight of Wands and the King of Pentacles are both trying to become an Empress, but it's like the King of Pentacles is doing it like the Knight of Wands does it, and the Knight of Wands is doing it like the King of Pentacles does it. But they can learn from each other to get to this, but it's like they have to stay in their own. It's like they're. It would be like how I imagine you would tell like someone who's more of a creative to do something like I don't know, do like a mathematics thing or like a something, or and then have a let me get some tarot on this, Cancer. Interesting. Okay. So the Four of Cups is clarified by the Two of Wands and the Two of Swords in reverse here, Cancer. And I feel maybe for some others, maybe we're not sure what this world is that we're trying to, what we're trying to speak into being, Maybe there have been these disappointments is what I'm kind of feeling here with the Four of Cups. Maybe we're telling ourselves we don't care about something. We're almost like, I feel even kind of stifling the passion with the Knight of Wands being here. Or I even feel that maybe even for some, it's like we're thinking about doing something, but maybe you don't think that anyone will care about what you're doing, possibly. Like, oh, what could I can't possibly do it like an Empress. So and that's not quite the, let me remove her from the mix. Let's say like you're trying to be, and we'll stay on the musician kick for a second. Let's say like you're trying to be a musician. And speaking of Empress, let's say maybe you're trying to, you want to be like Beyonce, but you can't be like Beyonce. Never, like it's only she can do her. You got to do you. And honestly, I don't want you to do Beyonce. I've seen what Beyonce does. We want to see what you do and what you have to make. There's something about this, you speaking your own world. Gemini has a tendency, or not a tendency, but there is this chance where Gemini they're almost like a mirror. I've been told as with the Gemini moon that it's almost like you're like a twin. And it's just because Gemini notices the nuances, the word choices that people make, the humor, the delivery style, the very, 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 Scorpio and Gemini they share some similar things when it comes to that perceptivity. But it just seems like, yeah, that's another thing that's kind of coming in through their Cancer. Let's get a little bit more on this. Okay, take care of yourself. Let's see what's going on here, Cancer. All right, so you have the Six of Cups and the Page of Pentacles in reverse, and then you have the Seven of Cups upright here, Cancer. And that's interesting. Something else to consider here too, Cancer. Maybe for some, I feel like the Seven of Cups is almost like, there are a lot of options right now. I feel there's a lot of information coming. We're getting ready to get into a lot of Gemini energy here in the next few days here. And because especially when Mercury enters into Gemini, we'll have 4 planets that are going to be in Gemini, and a lot of choices may be coming up. But I feel here that maybe with this Four of Cups, maybe we're not sure where to invest. It's almost like this overwhelm with the Page of Pentacles. Like, what do we start here? And it's like we're not sure. I almost feel like the Six of Cups in reverse is not. It's almost like a need to not worried about like the trend or what everyone else is focusing on. It's like really kind of focusing on what you want to share here. What is your... It feels like that it's something that no one can really no one can tell you how to speak your world into existence. There are because no one knows your world like you do, Cancer. That's a thing too. And I feel like when I almost feel like this Page of Pentacles here is like trying to find their calling, trying to figure out how to get to them. It's like almost we're trying to get to our Empress goals here, but we're having troubles get to the Page of Pentacles first. Again, something is having troubles being grounded here. Or even, it's like, I'm just thinking even with Pisces. You know, there's this, Pisces can be so big. You know, being that when we're thinking about their imagination and what you can, what you can manifest, or you know, the things that they receive, being associated with both Jupiter and Neptune, both very big planets. And I feel that sometimes a dream can seem so big that it's like how could we possibly, but it's where there's, I feel like that's where kind of Saturn is coming in the mix right now. This is, you know, Saturn wants us to dream big, but it's just like we have to be responsible with these gifts. We have to come to understand. I feel like this Knight of Wands, almost like what we're working with here, would be, understand this creative spark, but I even feel too here, Cancer, thinking with the Six of Cups. It's almost feeling like too that, because the Six of Cups can be tied in with the past, and maybe we've had someone share some shared energy. Maybe a King of Pentacles could have spread down a lack mindset, possibly. Like maybe it's like you were told that you can't accomplish things, or that certain things are set in stone. Like you'll like maybe had a teacher, a sibling, or something that just kind of made you feel like you're more limited than you actually are here. This could be something where you're speaking more confidence into yourself there, Cancer. Because again, if we're operating from a past thing too, that could be flavoring your world there too. And so that would be a great, I feel kind of way to work with the last quarter phase if we do have some past stuff, especially I feel kind of during the void of course times, you know, when you can get into those spaces, reflect on those energies, ponder those things, maybe write some stuff down, and that can be something where we can let some stuff go. But let's get some advice from Neptune and Jupiter. And you know, be mindful, Cancer. I feel that like with the speak your world into being, I feel there's a lot of stuff that maybe that's wanting to be shared, but it's like maybe you want to tackle all the things. But when we're in Gemini, you know, there's a potentiality of being, you're really kind of spreading yourself too thin. So, you know, I get if we have a lot of gifts and maybe ideas that we want to share, but try not to overwhelm yourself. You know, or get it to where you're, where you take on too much too soon, or something like that, or just at all at once. But all right, Cancer. Last little bit here. Get yourself. So you have the Nine of Cups, the Five of Cups, and the Six of Wands in reverse. And then you have the Knight of Swords and the Eight of Wands. Oh, hold on, I got one more here. And the Four of Wands here. Okay, and Four of Wands in reverse here, Cancer. A lot of wands and a lot of, let's switch back over. So that's interesting with this Four of Wands, the Six of Wands. This gives me kind of defeated energy, Cancer. This feels like that. It's like because I keep going back to this Four of Cups, and I almost feel like that for some there's this, because we haven't been maybe feeling in an energy of celebration, that we've just sort of told ourselves we don't care, we're just not moving the energy. You know, with both the twos are energy of choice, and a Two of Wands, a Two of Swords is like something that's gotten in our mind that's keeping the energy from moving. Maybe we were, it's like you have this, yeah, something feels so out of vibe here, you know, like something doesn't feel like, it's like we're attracting something that doesn't quite resonate, or like I feel like that maybe we don't feel we have enough maybe power over what we're attracting possibly here. Like things are just coming in very fast. I'm not quite sure with this. I might need to get a little bit more on this Eight of Wands, but the Eight of Wands can be a card of messages. So be aware of the messages that you're telling yourself. This may even be, I even feel like this Knight of Wands. The Knight of Wands is a very fast moving knight, and even just as we're talking about this Gemini stuff, I'm getting this energy of the mind is moving, the mind is going too fast, or even though they're upright, and it's just like but it's like we're running towards, it's almost like the mind is spiraling towards this disappointed, because the Eight of Cups is this like emotional upheaval. There could be this Mars and Scorpio, so we're looking at areas where we may feel repressed, where we're feeling frustrated, and this could be because maybe certain circumstances are holding you back. Maybe this is a personal thing. This is like it's whatever that is, Cancer. One, breathe. Absolutely. One, breathe. I feel when you find yourself stuck in a certain energy, even though it can be difficult, Cancer, I find getting yourself outside can help. You know, even if you just if you can just go outside, we talk about Pisces, take your shoes off and ground yourself. Pisces is associated with the feet, and the feet carry the weight of this whole body. The feet are strong. They're stronger than we realize, and we really give them credit for. But I feel that there's a need to kind of just ground yourself in this energy. Allow yourself to just breathe, just to get back to self for a minute. Get into the present reality. There's something here about the Knight of Swords is getting the mind into focus. Okay, I'm getting a lot of downloads right now, because sometimes these emotional upheavals, that's especially for us, Cancer, when we got a lot of emotions coming up, those are signs, those are signals, messages that the body are giving us. You know, maybe there's something here too, that this frustration is going on because maybe you're not feeling in your vibration, like it could be like a courage thing, Cancer. Let me get a clarifier on this Eight of Wands here before we wrap up, Cancer. Interesting. Okay, hold on. Let me get a little bit more, Cancer. Oh. I saw some flip. Nope, just me. Okay. All right, Cancer. Okay, so the Eight of Wands is clarified by the Five of Coins, the Four of Coins, and the Devil in reverse, Capricorn. Now, this Four of Coins and the Five of Coins, I feel that if we're coming from a place of what we don't have, you know, like it's just like I feel like if we again, there's power in our mind, in our tongue, and if it's not to say that you're not going to feel some type of way, Cancer, that you're not going to have tough emotions come up. But it's that having that awareness that, oh, there's something that is changing. When you're noticing these things that are coming up in our world, that's the time to pause and to find out what's happening before things get out of control with the devil here, before we maybe turn to old vices here. You know, these things that may be even kind of coming up, I feel like the devil is not trying to keep you down. The devil is never here to keep you down. The devil's like a check-in. You know, when we're working through stuff, it's like, okay, with my addictions, for example, like that's something where I have to do constant check-ins, like how is my relationship with alcohol, with this, you know, do I feel like things are getting out of hand, you know, where can this, it's an ongoing thing, you know, I have to balance out, but it's something that I don't look at it as why can't I and everyone else can? It's more so that this is the energies that I'm working with. So I have to be aware of the things that I'm speaking into being, you know, what I'm telling myself, like I can't do this like everybody else. I have to do it the way that I can do it, that works for me, you know, that keeps me feeling empowered, you know. And it's not to say that what if I can't do it, you know, like like very interesting, Cancer. But I think too, and something to pay attention to. I like how we have both this first quarter moon and last quarter energy here while we're talking about this. It's remembering that this journey, and even with Pisces, it's just like we're going through an experience, you know, and that's me. That's my 12th house placements talking. You know, I don't say that lightly. We're going through an experience. Sometimes there are wonderful experience, and there are other times there are not so wonderful experience. And even then, the universe, I feel like it's though that good, bad, positive, negative. That's just our. It gets into a tricky place when we get into Pisces and Neptune, and there's this. You know, it's a focus of mine all the time, you know, when I'm thinking about how life can be, when we're talking about fairness and things, and letting stuff go, and what's the purpose, and getting into those broader things. But I'm here, you know, and if I might as well try to make some sense about it. I chose this journey for a reason, and that says a lot, because I didn't used to think like that. And that's how I speak my world into being has drastically shifted, and that's how I feel like this can be something too, Cancer. It starts with these, and everyone has done this at some point. You've been stuck, and then you move on, and then you're like, yeah, I'm tired of this energy. I'm tired of being in this. I'm ready to go. So, all right, Cancer, but I think I've talked your head off enough. I think I'm gonna leave that there. So, if any of that resonated with you, Cancer, you managed to give any information out of this word salad, give it a thumbs up. And share this, Cancer, because this was a lot that was coming in. I feel like it was a part way that there's some sort of like doubt here, you know, a lot maybe with like maybe something coming from a place of fear, maybe even like telling yourself like a dream that you don't care about something because something. It was a lot going on here, Cancer. So share this if you know someone who might get a little nugget of wisdom from this, and then subscribe to Empress. Hit that bell button, get notified on all these videos each day. And then, last little bit, Cancer, if you're curious about the transits outside of the moon, what's going on, come check out my other channel, Alchemist 8, and I talk about the celestial chit-chat that's going on and the forecast and what the planets have in store for us, how we can work with these energies, and all that housekeeping, Cancer. It's down in the description box below, but let me get your surprise cards here. Oh, what's good? So I can get you out of here. Got Big Papa. Here's the Wheel of Fortune, Jupiter. And that's interesting with the Wheel of Fortune being in reverse here, Cancer. Because if you feel stuck in a situation, or if something feels like that you've been... This is the time, and really this thinking with Gemini, you know, if we're finding ourselves kind of stuck in some sort of cycle, this is the time to kind of look around at what's keeping the energy stuck. Because there's something. If we take a minute and think about it, and we may not like the answer, because it might be, It might be you that's getting in the way of you. I do that constantly. Yeah, I tend to get in my way a lot, and I'm working on that too. I'm working on getting better at that, but it's something that I have to be aware of, you know, and it's something that I've learned to when I'm explaining like my emotional stuff with people, or you know, with my partners, just like, this is where it may not sound rational, but this is where I'm feeling right now, and I'm trying to move past that. And so that's where I feel like if you feel stuck right now, Jupiter is one that, again, the traditional ruler of Pisces, and I feel like this isn't focused on, you know, when we're thinking, I feel like a lot of the luck goes to Sag, and Pisces is lucky too, but it's a different way. Like their luck is, I feel, comes from, actually, let me get your other card here. I feel their luck comes from this, the understanding that there is something bigger that's going on than just what we are processing here, you know, what the ego sees. And there's nothing, the ego's not the enemy, but there is something bigger that's happening than what's going on in this vessel here, than what we see with just this sense. It is something, and that's, I feel, in that helps us to detach from this situation, and not that we're avoiding or escaping, but detach from an outcome so that we can approach it from a clear mind. It's like, okay, this is, I'm growing in this. This is something where I can look at my whole 20s as just me, just a time of me just being a whole victim and doing all this stuff, and just, I could easily, and I did that for a long time. Or I could see it as an experience that taught me a lot of compassion for those who struggle with addiction, because it shows up in the people that you would never even expect. You know, there are those who you would consider high functioning, and I would throw myself up in there, but not really. You know, like you never. It was a gift. It's helped me to, you just be able to talk about these types of things, to be able to, let me get your other card here. Absolutely, it's been able to turn those experiences into a strength. You got the Ancient Oak Spirit card here, Cancer. It's a strength card, and this is number 2, which is magician energy, but, and that's actually very, no, excuse me, that's not a magician energy, that's high priestess energy, our ruler. And you have more strength than you know. I feel this cycle that you're stuck in, and it might be from, you know, let's say, for example, there's, with that 5 of coins being in reverse, maybe you don't have the resources for something. Then branch out. Gemini is communication. Talk with someone, you know, ask for help, you know, and and I get where it's like, well, what if they say no? What if they do this? Well, what if you stay in the same situation that you're in? Then, you know, then it's, you're stuck, you know, then we're just stuck again. So it's, we got to find, and we don't have to, the strength comes, it does come, you know. I feel like it's, and I feel like it's that encouragement, you know, speaking your world into being. I may not know what's going on yet, but I'm gonna get through this. I'm exactly where I need to be, even if I don't like it. I may not know what it means, but I'm exactly where I need to be, and this is all part of the journey. This is going to get me to that Empress place. This is going to get me feeling more. I may not feel stable yet, but and that's something too. I feel like, leave it open when we're speaking our world into being, that the opportunity for change, you know, that things can evolve. Just because all this stuff, it may have been in reverse, but it can flip. You know, it can get back into balance here, where we're celebrating 6 of Wands, you know, 4 of Wands, feeling like wishes are coming true here. Things are getting the vibration, 9 of Cups. So, you know, the High Priestess, it is, and just think with that last little bit, you know, with that number 2, it's, again, we got to feel that, trusting in something bigger than yourself, and then speaking that trust into your day, you know, Cancer. Waking up, I'm abundant, I'm blessed, divinely guided. Put some affirmations all over the place, Cancer. It could do you some wonders. I actually need to get some stuff up here soon too. But all right, Cancer, I'm gonna leave that there. But You stay safe out there, or stay mindful, stay present, beware of what you're be aware of. Don't beware, Cancer. Be aware of what you're speaking into being. You know, let's manifest some great stuff here, Cancer. Get yourself uplifted, gather your strength, raise that vibration through the roof. Speak your concerns to the moon. You know, that could be something that's helpful. And I will catch you, Cancer. Ooh, okay, I can't be here for a long one. On the next one, when's the next one? Venus Day.